Hi, my name's Becca. Welcome to my video series, Everyday English Every Day. Here we have authentic conversations with real people so you can practice your English language skills. You need to be consistent with your learning, so be sure to find at least 10 minutes a day to practice. Okay, so why protests turn into riots? That's our topic for today. We're going to listen to a conversation I had with my friend Nono. I met her at Eckerd College in St. Petersburg, Florida. We worked together at an ELS youth camp, which was a camp where kids from all over the world came to Florida to experience Florida and practice English. We're going to talk about her personal experience with protests. And for a little more, we're going to talk about the term kumbaya. All right, so Nono is in Seattle at the time of our conversation. She was working and living in the UK in England, but during our little chat, she was in Seattle, where she's from and where she has family. Now, during our conversation, I want you to pick out the phrases we're about to review together. So it's important to practice these phrases, practice repeating them after me. So let's practice together. Repeat after me. Arrested people. To commemorate that. Police reform. In support of. End up destroying property. Tried all other means. Too thick-headed. Fairness towards minority groups. We were faking it. Okay, so she's going to talk about the protests that have been happening in Seattle, around the United States, and all over the world, right? After George Floyd's murder. So people are protesting, and some of them are turning into riots. So let's listen to Nono's experience.
At 6 p.m. And the cops have, even though the protests have been peaceful, the cops still have arrested people because they'll stay like after the 6 p.m. because I don't know if you saw, there's like 8 minutes and 40 seconds or something. It's how long the cop had his knee on Lloyd, right? So it's like they're trying to commemorate that of like time breathing and all that. So people are still going to jail. The mayor of Seattle has said some words about trying to get police reform, and there are a lot of companies, at least on social media, who are putting out statements in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. There has been a lot of communication on explaining the difference between, you know, why we're saying Black Lives Matter and not saying all lives matter.
Oh God, that drives me nuts. Those people that keep on saying all lives matter.
It's like, we know all lives matter.
No shit.
No one's saying all lives don't matter. But right now, today, Black lives are feeling like they don't matter. So, you know, there needs to be a focus on that. And yeah, like I don't know if I mentioned this before, but before I went to the UK, I was in South Africa for work as well. And
how long did you live in South Africa?
For 3 months.
Okay.
So during that time, there were riots as well. And the riots were based off national South Africans feeling that foreigners are taking their jobs. And they were like protesting against that, and people like burning combis and fighting. And it was a little bit scary because it was definitely specifically targeted to foreigners and all that. And a lot of people will go like, you know, why do people end up like destroying property? And I believe that that's because you feel like you've tried all other means and no one is listening. and that then results in you destroying property. And if you look at history throughout the world, like the French Revolution, how the US got its independence, that wasn't people holding hands kumbaya, and you know, people had a fight for things to change. And it may just be human nature that we're just too thick-headed to just do the right thing, that people kind of have to
make this
react
kind of
like so strongly to like hear you and be like, okay, we need to change. Because if you look at the civil rights movement, the fact that we're now in 2020 talking about should we now reinstate the civil protection, you know, that bipartisan agency that looks at like civil rights and fairness towards minority groups. The fact that we're looking to reinstate that, to me, makes me feel like, wow, we have not improved at all.
At all.
Like, we didn't try. We were faking it, but we have not done.
Okay, so let's look at some of the phrases that we use in our conversation a little more. Even though the protests have been peaceful, the cops still have arrested people because they will stay after the 6 p.m. curfew. So a curfew is like, kind of like a law, a time that people can't be out and about. Okay, they have to be in their houses. So, for example, during coronavirus here in Costa Rica, we have a curfew. Right now, during the week, it's 10 p.m. at night, and on the weekends, it's 7 p.m. Everyone has to be off the streets at that time. Now, the mayor in Seattle made a curfew to keep protesters off the streets at night. Now, when I was in high school, I had a curfew. It was probably like 12 midnight, right? I had to be home by midnight. That was my curfew that my parents gave me. 8 minutes and 40 seconds or something. It's how long the cop had his knee on Floyd, right? So it's like they're trying to commemorate the fact of that time frame. So people are staying past the curfew for these 8 minutes in order to commemorate this man, to honor him as a remembrance. It's like a separate kind of protest, right? The mayor of Seattle has said some words about trying to get police reform. So when we're talking about reform, we're talking about changes. Now, there's a lot of talk about defunding the police, which doesn't necessarily mean we're taking all the money away from police departments. It means we're going to maybe use the money differently. So maybe some cases police wouldn't be called in, but a social worker may be called in to help. Or there's also lots of new policies, right? Some police departments are saying that policemen can no longer do like a chokehold around the neck. That's part of police reform. These are the changes that are hopefully going to be happening all over the United States. There are a lot of companies putting out statements in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. So Nono was talking about how we know all lives matter. You know, when someone says Black Lives Matter, we don't need to come back and be like, no, all lives matter. We're not saying all lives don't matter. But right now, today, Black lives are feeling like they don't matter. So there needs to be a focus on that. Why do people end up destroying property? So when something is destroyed, it's like ruined. I feel like this is because you tried all other means and no one is listening, right? When you try all other means, you try all different ways, right? And nothing helped or nothing created the change needed. Nono says, it may just be human nature that we are just too thick-headed to do the right thing. When you're thick-headed, you're unintelligent, kind of stupid. So we just can't decide it's time to make changes, I guess, as a society. Something big, something crazy needs to happen for this to take place, maybe. The agency that looks at civil rights and fairness towards minority groups. She's talking about how they might reinstate a Civil Protection Act, okay? And basically towards minority groups. When we say minority groups, we mean people who experience disadvantages as compared to members of a dominant social group like whites. So basically, Nono says, we have not improved at all. All of these years, there's been no improvement. We didn't try. We were faking it. Okay, so when you fake something, it's like you pretend. Nothing has happened. And now it's 2020, and we still have so many of the same issues with racism. Now, for a little more, we're going to talk about kumbaya. Nono says, you know, it's not people all holding hands and sitting around kumbayaing, okay? That's not what evokes change. So when we talk about kumbaya, it refers to moments of or efforts at harmony and unity, bringing people together. It's a song, and it became an anthem of the civil rights movement, sung at vigils and protests. So currently the song is often associated with what is considered naive and unrealistic attitudes of peace, harmony, and cooperation. So if something is naive, it's childlike, okay? Trusting, gullible. When you're naive, you believe anything. So it's kind of, you know, Nono's making the comparison like, you know, we can't just sit around in a circle and hope and sing about peace. You know, if we look back at history, there was a lot of violence. Look at when the United States was colonized. Look at the French Revolution. There was a lot of bloodshed, a lot of violence for these things to happen. So that kind of points to why protests often turn into riots in hopes of creating great change. All right, guys. So if you like my videos, give it a like and subscribe to my channel. New videos are posted on Mondays. Comment below, ask me questions. You can email me if you would like any more information. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Keep practicing. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.